I know you're a massive Foo Fighters fan. You're a massive Pearl Jam fan. You gotta tell me, what are your favorite albums from both of those two bands? And would you name a band that people would be surprised to hear that you really love?
For me, it's hard to kind of narrow it down to an album because I love tracks and I love that certain albums or certain parts of my life and remind me of those. Um, the Color and the Shape, though, is pretty tough to
It's a good one. Yeah.
And Wasting Light, because that one really, that came out when I was retiring, and it really came out at the perfect time, serendipitously for me. With Pearl Jam, I remember, I worked at a horse race track in the parking in this little shack in Canada, and I had like this little oil lantern as my heat, and I had Pearl Jam 10, the cassette, and I just throw it in my Walkman, clear cassette, and I would just flip it, play, flip it, play. That album was my company through all of those like minus 40 Celsius nights, sitting over with an oil lantern as my heat, doing homework. Again, it's tough to narrow it down to just one. I think if I had to, I'd probably go with Versus. And then I just randomly ended up going to a Pearl Jam show in Greenville, South Carolina by myself. And they played Versus in its entirety for the first and only time ever.
Oh my God.
And I'm sitting beside these two kids that are 21 from Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm hitting them going, they're doing Versus. And they're going, okay, sir, okay, this is our first Pearl Jam show and we've heard Alive. Like that's all they know, and I'm freaking out. I don't know if it would be a surprise necessarily, but like I love the Avett Brothers and I love Ray LaMontagne. If ABBA comes on, I'm probably going to crank it. Like it's just so damn catchy. Like, okay, yeah, I'm probably going to crank that up.
Yeah. I think Lemmy said it best when he said, there's only two different kinds of music. There's good music and there's bad music.
And you can't disagree with Lemmy. He's right. Like, he's totally right. It doesn't matter the genre. It doesn't matter, like, if it's good, it's good.
Obviously, this year, it's going to probably be a big year for the Foo Fighters. They just got nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I assume you're a big advocate in them getting in as soon as possible because, of course, they deserve it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I went on, I already voted. I put my votes in.
You vote for that? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I voted for them. Rage. Who else? I think New York Dolls. Tina Turner, because how do you not? And I forget the last one I voted.
There's like Carole King, Iron Maiden.
It was Maiden.
Okay, thank you. I'm very
glad to hear. It was Maiden.
I'm glad to hear Maiden. Because, like Priest didn't get in for a couple of those times, and that was a travesty, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? That might be the case with Maiden, but I think their fan base is just so rabid that they're not going to let it not happen. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I agree with that totally. And it's funny because when I think of you and the Foo Fighters, I think there's one definite similarity, and that's when it comes to a guy like Dave Grohl, when he falls off the stage and breaks his leg, going back and finishing the show, I imagine that you as a pro wrestler, as a WWE superstar, really appreciate the kind of toughness and grit it takes to finish a performance when you're injured.
With some Swedish dude holding your leg together.
Yeah, that's right.
Like literally holding your leg together. Like how do you not appreciate that guy? How do you not appreciate like the idea of, all right, we're here. I'm already banged up. Let's get it done. and I was bummed because I was going to the London show after that.
Oh.
So I missed out on it. And I was supposed to go to their Wembley show too, but I ended up having a show. So I've missed out on them in London a couple of times.
I'm sure there have been many matches where you've gotten an injury and you've had to just push through, like finish the match, just got to finish this match, right?
Yeah, I think the only one I didn't get through is when I tore my Achilles. And I tried, but that one, that was, especially when there's so much footwork involved with what we do. If you don't have one foot, it becomes very difficult.
I read recently that your original music, you hated the original sort of trancey music. Is that fair to say, or is that taken out of context?
I mean, hate is a strong word.
Okay.
Um, it was okay.
Yeah.
But to me, music is such a huge part of my life that I didn't want just okay music. And other talent might think that music would have been amazing. But for me and for my tastes, everything's subjective, right? And for
Yeah.
me, it just wasn't something that I could bite into. And when I come out, I feed off of that music. So that music gives me energy that then I try to throw at that audience and then hopefully get thrown back at me. Now we got a nice little reciprocal thing going on, and hopefully it's all just like, rah, you know, but it all starts for me with that music. And if that music isn't there, I have a hard time dropping into what Edge needs to be.
So when the music was eventually changed to Metalingus by Alter Bridge, what can you tell me about the behind the scenes conversations that led up to that switch in music?
At first, it was from there. It was Rob Zombie, Never Gonna Stop.
Oh, right.
For
I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, but I think we only had that kind of on loan for a few years, because if you
Okay.
go back and watch videos on the network from that time frame, like that music is cut out and the old music is sampled in,
Huh.
also losing the crowd noise, which kind of sucks
Oh.
because it sounds like nobody was reacting at all. But when I was out with my neck injury, the first one, I had gone to Summer Sanitarium tour. It was Metallica, Linkin Park, I want to say Limp Bizkit, and maybe the Deftones.
Nice.
And I went to that show, ended up meeting Mark Tremonti, the guitarist for Alter Bridge, meeting his brother at the show. We started talking, you know, hitting it off, and he said, "Hey, you want to come to Mark's after for a beer?" I was like, "I'm in a neck brace. I got nothing to do. Sure." So went over to Mark's, walked in. They handed me a beer, which I dropped all over his floor. So that was my first introduction to everybody. But then, you know, hit it off, started talking. He played me the first Alter Bridge record, and I heard Metalingus. I went, whoa. This was without Miles' vocals yet, because Miles, I don't think, was even in the band yet. I heard that. I was like, dude, when I come back, can I use that? Because that right there. And he went, yeah, sure. And that was it. It's become this kind of beautiful relationship over the years. And, you know, I love those guys. They're awesome guys. And I love the music. And I love everything they produce and every album they put out. And they're always going to be in my rotation of music. Sometimes there's that music that just instantly, forever synonymous with that talent. And I'm so lucky and so thankful that all of those dominoes fell where they did, that I ended up with that music. Because that music, those lyrics with Miles singing, it really sums up every part of my career. And then who knew, ends up summing up the second part of my career even more. When a song can fit you even better in the second phase of your career than it did in the first, when it was already 100%, that's kind of insane.
When you had this journey coming back to WWE, you got in such great shape. You know, everyone was saying like, wow, he looks so good. So when you're doing what I imagine are these real serious workouts, you know, you're thinking of that comeback, what music, if any, is bringing you through those workouts and sort of firing you up?
There's always music, and it's always very loud, to the point where, like, when Beth comes in, she'll like, hey, and I can't hear her. It's that loud. I make gym playlists, right? So let's look at one here. Let's see. I probably can't say the names of them, but I will anyway. It's Move Shit.
Yeah, you can say.
So all right. Well, I have Move Shit, like from 1 to like 25. So we got Amanda Marth, Anthrax, Sabbath, The Cult, Faith No More, Crew, Foos, Maiden, Kiss, Nirvana, Ozzy, Metallica, Zombie, Slipknot, Megadeth, Machine Head. It needs to get my heart rate up.
Yes.
You know, I love a bunch of different types of music, but when I'm trying to move stuff, or I'm trying to get in that headspace of how I'm going to feel in that moment, because again, visualization. If I'm picturing the main event at WrestleMania and trying to get ready for that, I need the music to match that intensity for me. You know, like there's this one part, I think like around the 3-minute mark, Hey Johnny Park by the Foos. And there's just like that second of silence, and then it goes chicka chicka down down down. You know it right away. Yeah. That part will always get me fired. Like there's so many songs. Or right now, Van Halen could come on, and I'd be like,
wow.
You know what I mean? Or Eruption, but right now that song will fire me up.
I think if the song hits you for whatever reason, it's like, it doesn't need to be super heavy necessarily, or super fast, or super aggressive. It's gotta hit you in the heart, right?
Exactly, and I think that's why Walk, both versions, like Pantera's version, man. Well, not that they're separate songs, don't get me wrong, but of the same name. And then Walk by the Foos, that song's really special to me because, again, I was retiring when I found out, and that song was on, and it just, so that one always hits really hard for me, like to the point where I'm in that, like I forget what I'm doing, and I'm like, oh man, I was doing that really heavy for a while, and I kind of went somewhere else.
I need to hear this story because I heard that you and Chris Jericho went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame together when Kiss was about to be inducted, and I heard there was some screaming at Kiss from the stands. Is that accurate?
Yes. All the screaming was done by Jericho.
I figured.
In a very high-pitched, very, like picture Beatles, like Hard Day's Night tour. That's Paul. Like I can't even do it. Like too many surgeries, so I can't hit those. But it was hilarious, and I got a big kick out of it. But I also get it because him and I were raised on Kiss, and to be there for that, let alone Nirvana going in. And how I feel about the Foos and how I feel about Nirvana and the entire Seattle scene. That was a fun night. That was a really fun night.
You know who's a real gigantic Pearl Jam fan? And that's Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
She's a gigantic Pearl Jam fan, and she's talked about times where she was growing up during difficult times and just listening to Eddie Vedder's voice and that getting through tough times with her. When you were a kid, what were some of the songs that got you through the pain of teenage life?
So I distinctly remember 9th grade and listening to Faith No More, The Real Thing.
Yes.
Daily. Every time going to school. Like it was the 9th grade, right? And I'm starting high school, and this is all scary, and it's all like, this is new, and I don't get it, that and The Cult Electric. Those two albums, man, they got me through the 9th grade. Just constant rotation. And then I got into my Zeppelin phase.
Nice.
Because, I was raised, my mom loved Zeppelin. So my mom was Zeppelin, Beatles, Doors, Eagles, America.
Nice.
That's what I was raised on. I really went through a heavy duty Zeppelin phase and really like appreciating just what was going on, because it was more than just like, oh, that's cool. It was like listening to Bonham's drums, listening to like what John Paul Jones was doing under there. And then of course, okay, well, the Who, what the hell is going, like Keith Moon and Entwistle, like that rhythm section, what? So that stuff starts to happen. And then Metallica, that's, I hit my Metallica phase, and it became like just all Metallica all the time, and then again now and then I start branching out. It's like, oh, Chili Peppers, and so it just it started mutating, and then the Smiths or the Cure on certain days, and just like all within kind of the same ballpark. And again, good music is good music. But I went through a lot of phases like that, and I was skateboarding for a while, and then it was punk, and it was like DRI, and and somehow Public Enemy, fell into that mix, and just this melting pot of stuff that I hear now, and it immediately takes me back to that time. You know, and there was a time like in the 8th grade, I just remember I listened to Pyromania. I
Oh.
cannot tell you how many times. Like,
Hmm.
what an amazing album. It just, to this day, man, it'll hit me right in the heart.
Imagine WrestleMania, full stadium. You can have any band ever play you down to the ring, playing any song ever, any band, any song. What do you pick?
I mean, my first gut is to say the Beatles because we get the Beatles for a night. Oh man, Sabbath, Supernaut. I love that song. I just love like, it just
Mm.
um, but but then I think of Legion of Doom, Road Warriors, because they always came out to Iron Man. So I mean, it's probably going to go back to Foos, and it might be Walk, or
Mm.
it might be Hey Johnny Parker, Stacked Actors, or like something
Mm.
with a whole bunch of crunch. Yeah, that's a really tough one, man. Or
Do you feel like if you were given that opportunity, like WWE says, you can do this, do you feel like you might stress over that decision more than you'd stress over the match?
absolutely. Like no, I well because then I'd be thinking, okay, any band ever, I could get the Beatles back together. That's for everybody.
Yeah.
Like that's not just for me. That's for the world.
Hmm.
And I'm a horrible human being if I don't make this happen. That's a big responsibility. So it's tough. It's tough not to say Beatles and just say screw it. Do let it be. Just it doesn't matter what you do. You're the Beatles, and I'll walk to the ring because that's awesome.
Yeah. You make that walk as long as possible, too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it could be something. Doesn't matter. It's the
Yeah.
Beatles.
Man, thank you so much for giving me your time today. I know you're obviously going to be doing a ton of press up to Mania, so I just thank you so much for your time and your energy. WrestleMania, April 10th and 11th, WWE Network, Peacock. You're going to want to watch it. Universal Championship match. And thank you so much, Edge, once again.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.